I think we need to have a quick chat about AI and what impact this is going to have on you as a web designer. Positive or negative is yet to be seen, but the changes we've seen in both ChatGPT and Sora, which are now using their own image generation models as opposed to using DALL-E, they are scarily good. And if you are using these in the right way, they can ultimately save you time, save you money, and maybe even open up more options to generate more income on projects, especially if you're working with clients that have products that you want to sell. This is something you need to check out. So I'm going to just quickly go through a couple of things in this video. This is not exhaustive. This is not kind of advocating for it. There are going to be pros and cons to using it, and whether you want to use it, that's a choice you have to make. But the improvements are significant. Let's take a look. So gone are the days where we had 17 fingers, 3 legs, and eyes that, well, they shouldn't be in places they were displayed. Those days are very much gone if you're using these new image generation tools. They are scarily good. Let's take a quick look at some examples on Sora, and then I want to show you how I would recommend we take a look at using them. But this is not an exhaustive list. There's so many use cases for this, and you can make your own mind up how you want to use it. But I would recommend testing it out. You can even use this on a free ChatGPT account, so you don't need to be paying to be able to test it out. So this is the Sora website. Now, Sora was predominantly more about video, but they've also have the image generation options, and they are still using the same options as ChatGPT. However, I've found that Sora is just a little bit more lenient when it comes to the images, as you can see by taking a look at these ones with, you've got Frodo and so on from the Lord of the Rings. They look exactly like Elijah Wood and so on. But then you've also got your more creative options. You kind of get the idea of the kind of things you can do here. You can get, well, strangely creative if you want to. And you can create some very, very strange images. Like, for example, these toys now are massive when it comes to, you know, sort of creating these AI images, as is the Ghibli kind of style and so on. But this kind of gives you some idea of what you could do and get creative with it. And if you want to do advertising and things like that, and if you're working with clients to handle things like the Google ads and things, you could use this to very quickly create great looking ads. And if you want to combine images, which is something we'll take a look at in a moment, you could use source images and you could use your own quickly snapped images with a phone. You don't even need to have a professional camera and professional lighting. Again, as I'll show you in a moment, you could easily start creating product shots, hero shots. You know, if you want an e-commerce, you may want to have clothing shots, different merchandise and things. Again, let me show you how this works. So I had a logo that I was playing around with, and I wanted to see what this would look like on clothing. But obviously you could do normal clothing, and you could use the typical methods of using product shot mockups in Photoshop, and then you could import your image in, and you could do all that. But it is time consuming, and you do have to have access to those files. However, we can bypass that step now by just going straight to ChatGPT. And as you can see, I used a pretty simple sort of prompt asking it to create an image, and this is what it comes back with. So as I've already said, gone are those days of having body parts where they shouldn't be, extra body parts where you don't want them, and faces that just didn't look natural and so on. This looks like a product shot in professional lighting with a model. You can't deny it. It looks incredible. And if you are using these kinds of things to create product mock-ups and so on for clothing, for items and things, this is just incredible. So open it up a bit larger, you can see. And if you want to remix it, you want to change things, maybe you want to make the logo smaller, not something your client will ever say, well, you can drop that inside here and you can ask it to kind of remix that prompt. The only thing I would say is that what I found is each time you modify the image, you'll find that it degrades the quality, not of the image itself, but of maybe the logo that you've chosen or the item that you've chosen. So I'd recommend once you've got the prompt where you want it to be, you make sure that you upload the new copy of the logo, so it's got a fresh copy of that, and you get the best chance of getting the great end result. So that's one example. Then taking that example one step further, I expanded upon the prompt and said, I want to have a particular kind of shirt, and I want to have a full body shot, and even though it's kind of cropped the legs off, you can see it's pretty much a full body shot. Again, that looks absolutely incredible. Using the logo, a model, the lighting environment that I want, which is kind of like a grungy kind of rock club kind of thing. You can see in the background, we've got those lights. You've got what looks like a drum kit there. Exactly what I've asked for. If I want to re-engineer it and tweak it, I can do. But you can see how easy you could use this. Let's say you don't want to use a model in your actual shot. You just literally want to create flat lays. Again, here's a new one. I said that I wanted to have road-worn clothing on a wood background with a baseball cap, a hoodie, and a t-shirt with the logo that I wanted. I want them road-worn so they look like a little bit dark and a charcoal grey. Exactly what I asked for. Pretty cool. The logos get a little bit fudged up on this, and you kind of find when things get a bit smaller, they can get a little bit crapped out. So you maybe want to take note of that. But again, we could easily remix this. The other thing to note is often you'll find things will get cropped off a little bit. You can ask that prompt to give you more space around it, and you'll find sometimes it will do it, sometimes it won't. So it's not perfect. It will get better. As we always say, this is the worst it's going to be. It's only going to get better. And I think the fact that we've moved from DALL-E 3 to this and the difference, the jump in the quality, insane. Well, you kind of get the idea. So let's move on to a different kind of product shot. This is where I literally took a photograph that I snapped with my phone, which won't show up for some reason, that I snapped with my phone, and a photo that I found that's just online, asked it to use those, and you get this. It's a strange combination, but it's all I had to hand. I didn't have a sort of a can of drink or anything like that to try out, but you could see how you could use this to start off with. Bit of a strange image, like I say. But if we jump over to Sora, where I use the same ones with a slightly different prompt, wow, look at those results. That is phenomenal. You can't tell me that that doesn't look like a product shot that's been taken inside a studio environment by a pro photographer. The lighting looks great, the item looks great, the background and everything else looks great. So if you are selling these little fake succulents, well, you now have some amazing photos that you could use to do just that. And you can easily just create variations on this. You can see this has created two different slight variations. They're basically the same kind of thing. You get the idea. But pretty impressive what you can do here. Here's some other examples of the sort of flat lay clothing, the sort of model that you wanted to have. So it's going to be two different variations, which you can do inside Sora. This is image optimized. You can specify the aspect ratio. So when you're using this inside ChatGPT, you have to do the aspect ratio yourself. There's a couple of options like the variations you want, 1 or 2 images, and you get the idea. So you can see, I mean, the flat lay looks pretty awesome. Again, using the logo that I supplied to them, different kinds of road-worn shirts and so on. You will find that a lot of times the images will come back looking similar. So I can imagine the source that it's using is using very similar sources. But I mean, come on. If you were selling these kinds of clothes, you wouldn't have to set this up. And even if you don't want to use this exactly as it is, you may think it's AI, I don't want to use it. I want my own product shots with my own items. Well, do it. Use this as inspiration. You could hand this off to a photographer, or you could use it for your own inspiration, and you could get a good idea of what this was going to look like before you spent a single penny commissioning having this work done. So you will ultimately save yourself time there as well. But this is just some simple examples. I mean, if you want to do album covers, you want to create book covers, create the artwork for the book cover and then have a 3D mock-up of it in a certain situation with a certain type of lighting, you can use this to do it. What we used to have to use kind of templates and so on from places like Envato Marketplace, where you sort of grab these and you then load them into Photoshop, you'd load your image, what you wanted in your logo and so on, put that on there and it would do all the hard work for you. This is kind of cutting out that middle person, and you can do it all yourself inside Sora or ChatGPT, but you can keep on tweaking it and prompting it the way that you want to get a closer end result, either as a final result or as an inspiration. So there's so many different ways in which you can use it. I would recommend, if you haven't, try this out for yourself. You can try it out on the free ChatGPT. You don't have to have a paid account. There may be some limitations, but you can try it out. Get a feel for it and have a little play about. I think this is exciting. I think this opens up a ton of possibilities for us as creators. If you've got clients that have product shots and they're not necessarily the best, or you want to combine them into adverts, you can do it. You combine various different sources into an advert and then create different variations of it. And you'll end up with, as we've seen, some pretty amazing looking quality shots. Like I say, these product shots with the lighting and so on look absolutely phenomenal. But that's what I want to cover. If you'd like me to cover things in more detail, showing you prompts how to get most out of this, let me know in the comment section down below. And if enough are interested, I'll create some content just for you guys. Anyway, all the links are in the description. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.